Okay, hopefully you enjoyed your day off. I was at school, but that's part of my job. So let's get this review one, right? I'll give you another review sheet on Wednesday, um, tomorrow, if I finish it tonight, or I'll give you one on Thursday. I'll try to aim it for tomorrow. Let's get this started. So all these things that you see here will be part of your test in one shape or form. So make sure you know your operations, adding, subtracting integers, multiplying, um, and operations, rational numbers. Well, you'll see it. Let's get started. Um, so this is a subtraction problem, but I will change this to an addition problem because it's easier for me to see. It's two negatives being added. I can't make zero pairs, so I'm going to have a bunch of negatives together. So if I want to know how many negatives I will have, I will add these two. And I get 38. So I'm going to have negative 38 negative numbers. Okay. Here it's the same thing, but so let's take care of these two first. So it's a positive plus a negative, and to decide what the sign is, you look at the number with the bigger absolute value, and there's definitely more negatives here. So I know my answer is going to be negative. So in this case, I'm going to subtract these two. So 37 minus 14 is 23. So I'm going to be left over with minus negative 23, and then I'll have to subtract minus 18. So it's a subtraction problem. Will I change, which I will change to an addition problem. So keep the first as negative 23, change the subtraction to addition, and the opposite of 18 is negative 18. So now I'm adding two negatives. I'm going to get just a bunch more negatives together. So let's see how many negatives will I have. It's 23 plus 18. That gives me 41. So I'm going to have negative 41. Again, this is another subtraction problem, which I would like you to change to a negative. I'm sorry, a subtraction problem, which I want you to change it to a positive addition. 38 plus negative 83, definitely more negatives here. How many more negatives do we have? So we have to subtract. 13 minus 8 is 5, 7 minus 3. So we have 45 negatives left over. This one is just negative. So let's take care of it from here all the way up to the end of the 5. So it's negative 23 plus negative 45, subtraction problem. I will change it to addition. So I have, again, two negatives being added. So I know it's going to be a negative answer. So 23 plus 45 is going to give me 68. So I'm going to have a bunch of negatives. So it's negative 68. And then I'm going to subtract that by 65. And again, I'm going to change this to an addition problem. And you can tell now that I have two groups of negatives being added together. So I'm going to have a lot of negatives together. So it's 68 plus 65, 133 negatives. 100 negative 133. Moving on. So the temperature dropped -6 for each of the past 8 hours. Write an expression to represent the situation. So the expression that I would use would be to find out how much it drops. So every hour is dropping. So 1 hour, hour 1, second hour, so it drops -6 to -6, second hour, third hour, -6 for 4, 5, fifth hour, 6th hour, 7th hour, 8th hour. So every hour for the next 8 hours is dropping -6 degrees. So one thing you could have done is, actually you could have done this. So an expression that you could have used is -6 plus -6 plus -6 plus -6, sorry, -6, 1, 2, 3, 4, plus -6, 5, plus plus -6, that's 6, plus -6, that's 7, plus -6. So this would have been acceptable, but there's a shortcut to this, right? This is repeated addition, and repeated addition can be written as multiplication. So it's 8 times -6, 8 groups of -6, right? And it's negative because the temperature is going down, right? And if you add all those, you would have gotten -48. And if you multiply these, you still get -48. A positive times a negative is a negative, and 8 times 6 is 48. So in 8 hours, it dropped 48 degrees, which is quite a change. All right, so I'm looking for the expression first. Either you write this or you write this. In both of them, you get negative 48. Ugh. So, again, it's a division problem. It's fractions, so let's change it to multiplication. We can multiply that by the reciprocal, right? And it's a negative times a negative now, which gives me a positive. I can't simplify before I multiply, so I'm just going to multiply across. 5 times 8 is 40, and 7 times 3 is 21. So I get 119 over 21. 21 goes into 41 time. I have 19 left over 21, and positive. I'm going to change both of these to improper fractions. 3 times 2 is 6. 7 over 3, negative, divided by 2, 6, 7 over 2. And I'm going to change it to multiplication. And I know that this is going to be a negative because a negative times a positive is negative. So my answer is going to be a negative. These two 7s I can divide, right? It becomes 1 and 1. I multiply across, I get 2. And 3 times 1 is 3. And I forgot the negative right here. Over here, it's a fraction and a decimal, so I can change either both of them fractions or both of them to decimals, and I will choose to do fractions. So 5 times 1 is 5. This is the same thing as 8 over 5 divided by negative 45 over 100, right? The 5 is in the hundredths place, so that's the same thing. Change it to a multiplication. Times 100 negative, over 45. There's a lot of simplifying I can do. 5 divided by 5 is 1. 100 divided by 5 is 20. I can simplify 20 and 45 now. 20 divided by 5 is 4. 45 divided by 5 is 9. And I think that's it. 8 times 4 on the top is 32. At the bottom is 9. And this is negative. So as an improper fraction, it's 32 over 9. Or 9 goes to 32 3 times, which is 27. I'll have 5 left over 9 and all that. So look at your multiple choice answers. If this is a multiple choice question, if all the multiple choices are a mixed number, so you change it. If not, look for this one. Either or would be correct. So there's two things happening here: subtraction and then division. So I will write this out. So it's 4/5 minus 8 over 9, and then we're going to divide that by 3/7. So let's leave it at that first. So let's take care of the parentheses. 45 is my LCM. So we want to write an equivalent fraction, right? 4/5, it's times 9, so times 9 on top gives me 36. Times 5 at the bottom, or times 5 at the top, is 40. And then we're going to divide that by 3 over 7. So I know it's going to be something over 45, right? So let's just focus on the numerators. The numerator is 36 minus 40, which I can change to addition. 36 plus negative 40. If I make 0 pairs, there's more negatives. So how many more negatives? So it's just going to be, well, it's going to be negative first of all. And then there's 4 more negatives. This whole thing is going to be negative 4 over 45, right? Divided by 3/7, or multiply that by the reciprocal, 7 over 3. Can I simplify anything? No. Negative times a positive is a negative. 4 times 7 is 28. And 45 times 3 is like 135. Yeah, right. 45 times 3, 15. Goes 1, 12, 135. That's right. So final answer, negative 28 over 135. Moving along, change that to a decimal to the nearest hundreds. Yuck. So we're going to divide 7 divided by 12. 12 does not go into 7, so we add a 0, add a decimal, add a decimal, add a 0. 7 goes into 75 times, which is 60. 10 left over. If I subtract, bring a 0, put a 0, bring a 0 down. 12 goes to 108 times, which is 96. 4 left over. So it says round to the nearest hundred, but to round to the nearest hundreds, I need one more, one more number here, right? Need to go to the thousands place to then round. So I'm going to go 3 decimal places. So add a 0, bring it down, and 12 goes to 40, 3 times, which is 36. And I'm going to stop. So my answer, and this would have continued, but my answer right now is 5.8 0.583, etc. I don't need the rest, but I want to round this to the hundreds, which means I need to cut that number right here. So now you have to figure out if that's 3, we'll move that 8 one higher, and as you know, it doesn't have that power, so we're going to leave it at 0.58, and that should have been your final answer. Describing what 11 over 16 is as a decimal. Well, I don't know what it looks like, so I'm going to divide. Let's find out what it looks like as a decimal first. 0, and out of 0, 16 goes into 110, I don't know, 5 times, 6 times? It's 36, goes 3, 96. I'm going to say 96 times, 6 times. So 6, the 96, subtract, I'm going to have 14 left over, add a 0, bring the 0 down. 16 goes into 140 8 times. 48 goes 4, 8, 128, 16, yeah, 8 seems like the right number. 128, 12 left over, bring a 0 down. That's going to be 7. 16 times 7 is 2, goes 4, 112. I'm going to keep going just for a little bit more, just to see if I see what kind of decimal this looks like. So add another 0, bring the 0 down. 16 goes into 80 5 times. Oh, 16 times 5 is exactly 80. Oops, I wrote it down, so that should have been a 5. So 11 over 16 as a decimal is the same thing as 0.6875. So that's not what I'm looking for. So on the test, I'm looking for you to write a sentence. So 11 over 16 as a decimal is a terminating decimal. What does terminating mean? A decimal that ends. It ends here. It doesn't go on forever. It doesn't repeat. So you can write is a non-repeat. No, you don't have to write. It's a terminating decimal. That's it. The decimal that ends. Okay. Find two numbers that are 4.5 units away from -2. So you might want to use a number line for this type of question. 0, 1, 2, 3, 4, 1, -1, -2, -3, -4. So there's a lot of ways of doing this problem. One of them would be here. So find out where -2 is, and I'll put a little circle over here. And go 4.5 units to the right, and go 4.5 units to the left, and see where you land. All right. And just make this a little bit longer because I'm going to need it. -6, -7, -8. I don't need any more. So if I'm here at -2 and I walk 4.5 to the left, I would go 1, 2, 3, 4.5. Where would I land? I would land on -6.5 or -6.5. So one of the numbers is that. If I go to the right, I would take 1 step, 2 steps, 3 steps, 4 steps and a half. I would land right here, and that looks like it's 2.5 or 2.5. So two numbers that are 4.5 units away from -2. On the left side, it's the negative number 6.5, or on the right side, it's positive number 2.5. So definitely use a number line for that type of question. Or you can just add. Let me go back to this. So you subtract going to the right. You add going to the right, and you subtract going to the left. That would have been fine too. Change the following to addition before evaluating. So it would look like this. Plus -89.3. So that's what it would look like. All right. And then you know that both of them are negative, so I'm going to have a negative answer. So just have a bigger number of negatives. So how many would that be? Just add them up. 89.3. If I add 8, 10 goes 1, it's 13 goes 1, so it's 113.08. Okay. Same thing here. 65.32. plus negative 98879. So be careful here. There's more of this, right? This has a bigger absolute value, so I'm going to know my answer is going to be negative. So how much bigger is this number than this one in terms of absolute value? So I'm going to subtract those two. 879, and then the other one, make sure you line up your decimals. I'm going to subtract. Put a placeholder over here. It's 955 dot 8 minus 5 is 3, and it's 9 minus 6 is 3. So it's going to be negative 33.559. Okay. Subtraction problem. Let's, change it to addition. And at the same time, let's change it to a mixed number. So it's 1519 over 4 plus 6 times 6, 36, plus 5 is 41 over 6, but that's going to be negative, right? We have to find an LCM, and in this case, the LCM is 12, negative, plus, again, this is negative 2, so I'll put that in parentheses. 4 times 3, right, gives me 12, and times 3 over here is 57. Here is times 2, so it's going to be 82. So if you ignore, so you know it's going to be something over 12. You know you're adding 2 negatives, so you know your answer is just going to be a bunch of more negatives together. So ignore the 12s for a second and just look at your numerator. Your numerator says this, negative 57 plus negative 82. And I'll put that in parentheses. Now if you had these, you would know the answer is negative, first of all. And 57 negative plus 82 negative, they're both, I guess, friends, and no zero pairs. I mean, you're just going to have a bunch more negatives. If I add these two, I guess 7 and 2 is 9, 5 and 8 is 13. So I get 139 negative numbers. So and that would be your answer, but over 12. I'm not changing that to a improper fraction because I don't want to. Bottom. So again, let's change this to an addition problem. Okay. Find the LCM now, and the LCM between 7 and 15 is, I have no idea. Let's multiply those two, you get 35, 105. So it's going to be 105 plus negative something over 105. And 7 times 15, so it's 15 times 15 on top, and I get 45. 15 times 7 is 105, so I'm going to multiply by 7, I get 56. So again, we know our answer is going to be something over 105. So what's happening with my numerators? Well, my numerators look like this, 45 positive plus negative 56. There's going to be more negatives left over, so right away we know our answer is going to be negative. And how many more negatives are there than 45? Well, you make a bunch of zero pairs. I'm going to have a bunch of negatives left over. Let's see how many. 1 and 1 and negative 11 over 105. Oh boy, there's a lot. Okay, so next, over here, I would change everything to a decimal. 0.85 minus 4/5 is 0.8, negative by the way, plus 0.28 minus 0.5. You should be familiar with your fifths, with your fourth, 2/4, 3/4, 3/5, 4/5. Those are the ones you should know. 0.25, 2/4 is 0.5, 3/4 is 0.75, 1/5 is 0.2, 0.4, 0.6, 0.8. So you got to get familiar with these. Okay, and also obviously your half. So once you have everything as a decimal, look how much easier the problem is. So let's do these two first. And 0.85, we're going to change this to addition plus, and this is going to be plus again inside. And positive plus a positive is a positive, and 0.85 plus 0.8. Add a placeholder here. 5, 16 goes 1. It's 1.65. So this becomes 1.65, which you're going to add plus 0.28. So let's stop right here. So think about money, $1.65 plus 28 cents. 3 goes 1, 9. Now you have $1.93, right? So, and then you have $1.93, and you're going to subtract the 0.5. We're not going to change that to addition because we don't need to, because 193 is a bigger number. So it's $1.93 minus 50 cents. So if you had $1.93 and you had to subtract 50 cents, how much would you have left over? $1.43 positive. Okay. Again, this question, same thing. Change it to decimals. You can do it as a fraction, but I think decimals is much easier. So you get negative 0.25 plus 0.35 minus 0.2 minus 0.65, and 3 over 10 is 0.3. Okay. 1/10 is 0.1, 2/10 is 0.2, etc., etc. So let's add these two. I know it's going to be positive because there's more positives, right? It's a bigger absolute value. So subtract 0.35 and 0.25, I get 0.10. So this 2 gives me positive 0.10. Minus 0.2, if I were to do that, it's a positive plus a negative. So 0.10 plus negative 0.2. There's more. This is a bigger number. So if you like, you can make it a 0 so that they both have what do you call, 2 decimal places, and it's easier to look at. So quickly, you know the answer is negative because there's no more negatives. And how much more? You have 0.10 more. Minus 0.65. So again, now we have 2 negatives. It's going to be 2 negatives plus negative 0.65, right? So we've got a bunch of negatives together. You're going to have just more negatives. So a negative plus a negative is just a negative. And if you add 0.10 and 0.65, you get 0.75. Lastly, we have to do minus 0.3. Or if you want to change that to addition, you get 0.75 plus negative 0.3. So it's a negative plus a negative, so you're going to have more negatives. And think of it as 75 cents plus 30 cents, and that's just going to give you 1.05, all negative. Okay. Let's change. So it's, you know what, we can change everything. So it's 5/5 times 3 over 2. Let's take care of those two, because then we're going to divide that. And I'm going to change that to 5 times 1 is 5, 6, 8 over 5. So let's take care of these two first. Can I simplify? No, I can't. So negative times a positive is a negative. 5 times 3 is 15, and I get 16. Right? So this from here to here. Took care of it. Now, I have to divide that by 8 over 5th or multiply by the reciprocal, 5 over 8. Can I simplify anything? No. A negative times a positive is a negative. 75 times 5 is, 15 times 5 is 75. At the bottom, 8 times 16 is 48, goes for 128. Final answer. Same thing here. Negative 7 over 8 times, let's change that to an improper, 5 and 2 is 10, 11 over 5. Let's take care of that. I can't simplify anything, so I get 7 times, well, I get a negative first of all. 7 times 11 is 77. 8 times 5 is 40, which I'm going to now divide by negative 5, 6, or multiply by negative 6 over 5, right? The reciprocal. A negative times a negative is a positive. Can I simplify anything? 6 divided by 2 is 3. 40 divided by 2 is 20. And that looks like it. 77 times, so let's do the bottom. 5 times 20 is easy, 100. 3 times 77 is 121, goes to 231 as an improper fraction, or 100 goes into 231. 2 times 31 left over 100. So you can tell the test here is going to ask you to be very comfortable with these operations, fractions, decimals, multiplying, adding, etc., etc. Okay, so here we're adding, so it's a negative plus a positive, so let's take care of that. So it's 23 over 5, negative, plus 6, 7 over 3, so let's take care of that. And you know what, I'm going to change that to negative 12 over 10. I'm going to change everything like that, so I don't have to worry about it later. Let's add these two. The LCM is 15. Don't forget this minus sign. 5 times 3, right? So it's times 3 on the top. So let's get you 69. Times 5 here, times 5 on the top is 35. So let's take care of those two. So you know it's going to be something over 15. So let me take care of that. And you know it's going to be negative because there are more negatives here. So think about, ignore the denominators for a second. Look what you have on top. You have negative 69 plus 35. So right away we know there are more negatives. So I know my answer is negative. So I can put it over here already. And how many more negatives do I have than positives? Well, find the difference. 4, yeah, 34. So right now we have 34 over 15. Times, we're going to take that and divide that by negative 12 over 10, or times the reciprocal, which is 10 over 12. And negative, by the way. Simplify? Yes, I can. I can simplify 10 divided by 5 is 2, 15 divided by 5 is 3. I can simplify this. 2 divided by 2 is 1, 12 divided by 2 is 6. I can now simplify across. 6 divided by 2 is 3. 34 divided by 2 is 17. That's it. On top, I'm left with 17 times 1, or let me take the signs first. So negative times negative, so I know my answer is positive. 17 times 1 is 17. And at the bottom, 3 times 3 is 9. 17 over 9, or 1 and 8 over 9. Either way, it works out. So next one again, we're subtracting first, so let's change that. So that becomes 3 over 2, yeah, minus 21, 25 over 7. And I'm going to divide that. Let me keep this in parentheses. Divide that by 21 over 10, right? So 14 is my LCM here. So times 7, so times 7 on top is 21, times 3, and then times 3 on the top is 75. And then divide that by 21 over 10. So, but we got to take care of this first. So you know it's going to be something over 14. We took care of that. And then if you look at the numbers, the numerator, you have 21 minus 75. So change that to addition. We can clearly tell there's more negatives here, right? So I know my answer is going to be negative. How many more negatives do I have? Well, we got to subtract 75 minus 21 is 54. So negative 54. So right there, I can put, this is my numerator, right? I'm doing my numerator, so it's going to be negative 54. Divide that, or times the reciprocal, 10 over 21. Simplify? Yes, I can. Divided by 2 is 5. Divided by 2 is 7. Divided by 3 is 7. Divided by 3 is 18. A negative times a positive is a negative. 7 times 7 at the bottom is 49. And 18 times 5 on the top is 0, 90. So negative 90 over 49. Okay. V. So we have, let's write this out. So you have, is that a negative? Yes. Negative 7 over 8 divided by negative 5 over 9. And then we're going to add that to negative 2/5. So we got to take care of this division first, yeah? So negative 7 over 8 times negative 9 over 5. Let's take care of that. Can I simplify anything? Nope. So I can multiply. Negative times a negative is a positive. 7 times 9 is 63. And 8 times 5 is 40, which I am going to now add that to negative 2 over 5. So let me just get rid of this because I don't need it. Find the LCM between 40 and 5 is going to be 40. So that's a 40 already. No changes necessary. Inside the parentheses, that 5 is going to be 40. First of all, it's negative. So 5 times 8 is 40. So on the top is times 8, and I get 16. So my denominator, is going to be 40. Now look at your numerator. The numerator has this number, 63 plus negative 16. You look at it this way, it's very easy to see that you have more positives, so my answer is positive, so it's going to be positive something. And how many more positives do I have from the negative? So it's 63 minus 16. 13 minus 6 is 7, and 5 minus 1 is 4. 47 over 40, and that's easy to change to an improper. 40 goes to 47 one time, 7 left over 40. So this one are examples of what you might find on the extended part of your test. So over the past week, the price of a popular toy for Christmas has fluctuated. So maybe it's on demand or people lose interest. So it's on eBay. So imagine it's on eBay. So prices can fluctuate based on supply and demand, right? So the more people want it, the higher the price can be, and the less people want it, the lower the price it will be. So first thing we want to find out if the price of the C-toy, the toy, increased. The price of the toy increase or decrease by the end of the week? Well, we're going to have to write that out. It starts at positive 7.2, right? We don't have to write plus negative 1.45 plus negative 9.4 plus negative 3.5 plus 8.77. So you're going to have to obviously calculate these. So take these two, 7.2 plus 1.45, you're going to have a positive answer because there's more positives. So let's just find the difference. 7.2 minus 1.45. 0 over here, some borrowing. 10 minus 5 is 5, 7, 5. So now you have 5.75 positive. We're going to add to plus negative 0.94. So let's take care of these two now, right? Well, if you look at these two, obviously there's more negative. 9.4 is the bigger absolute value. So my answer is negative. And then how much more negatives are there? So 9.4 minus 5.75. Little placeholder here, put a 0. Borrow 8, 13, 10, 5, 6, 3. So you're going to have now you're minus 365. So if you ended your week here at the third day, you know that the price of your toy has definitely lost some of its value. So it's down $3.65 from whatever its original price is that we still currently don't know. So now it's down, and then the next day you check on eBay, and guess what? The price went down again, which is a good thing if you're a buyer. So it's a negative plus a negative, so we know it's going to be just more negative, so it's going to be negative. And let's see how much further down it has gone. We're going to add these numbers, and we get 5, 11, 7 points. So now, by the end of the fourth day, the price has gone down $7.50. So far, the price has decreased. But then on the last day, on Friday, you check again on eBay, and you should have actually bought the toy on Thursday, but you didn't because you thought it was going to go lower, but the price went back up. So by 8.77. So let's see what the balance is here. So it's a negative plus a positive, so there's more positive, so you know the answer is going to be positive. And let's see by how much. 7.15, let's subtract, it's a 2, it's a 6, it's a 1. So not that bad. So by Friday night, when you go to eBay and you check whatever the original price was on Monday, you know that's a little bit higher. Okay, so the price of that toy is up by 1.62. So let's keep that number in check. 1.62. So after 5 days, the price was up by $1.62. So the next question says, what was the price of the toy of the beginning of the week if the price ended up at 34.2? So here you have a starting price, you have the change, and you have the final price, right? So out of the three pieces of information, I know that the final price on Friday was $34.20. The change that happened was plus 1.62 plus. So it started at a price, it went up to $1.62, and it ended up at 34.2. So if you were to think of a graph, right, price of the toy, and this is Monday, Tuesday, Wednesday, Thursday, Friday, all right, so the price of the toy was up, and then by Friday it's definitely, so whatever the price was, let's I don't know what the price is. So over the week, it went like this, up and down. And then by Friday, it's slightly above, not too much higher, but slightly above. And let's call that 34.2. So all that up and down throughout the week, and it ended up a little bit higher. So what do we start with? So what number added to 162 gives you 34.2. So to find this, we know that to find the final, we can do, sorry, not the final. To find the starting price, it's simply final minus change, which is in this case 162. So the final price was 34.2 minus 1.62, and we can find our original price. So 34.2 minus 1.62, subtract 2, 12 minus 2 is 6, 3 minus 1 is 2, 32.62. So at the beginning of the week, the price of that toy was $32.62. So it went up, it went down, it went up, and it went down, up, down, and then finally went up, and it ended the week at 34.2. Think of it that way. So this next question I'm not too particularly fond of because I don't know too many 12-year-olds that have a bank account and have to deal with checks and stuff. So blame that on you, whoever writes your state test. So imagine you had $63 in your bank account. So if you were to look at the machine and check your balance, it would say positive plus 63. So right now you know that you have some money, or Sam has some money. But Sam does something, and she writes 5 checks of $20.50 each. So she writes 5 checks 5 times, right? Gives that check to someone, to mom, gives the second check to dad, to the sister, to the brother, and then to an aunt. So what you have to understand that every time she writes a check, the money comes out of here, right? And that is a negative thing, right? Every time she writes a check, gives it to mom, it's minus 20.5. Give it to dad, it's another minus 20.5. Give it to the sister, minus another 20.5 to the brother, etc. But what you notice is that she definitely doesn't have enough money in her bank account to cover all these checks. So let's find out how much she ends up spending. So if you multiply this by 5, because that's how many checks she rolls, 5 times 5 is 25, goes to 2, and 5 times 2 is 10. 1 decimal place, so my answer is 1 decimal place. So she wrote 5 checks, which totals $102.50. Well, she had 63, so she's not down by much. So let's find out how do we find how much she owes the bank. So she had 63. She was at 63, and it decreased by 102.5. Right? She was a positive, and it decreased by 102. Let's find out now how much money she has in the bank. So think of it that way, right? 102.5. So to find out how much it was, it would be 102.5. There's definitely more negative, so definitely more negative. She's going to be a negative balance. That's obvious. She's not going to be that much negative because she had some money in the bank. So let's subtract this. Borrow 10 becomes 9. 12 minus 3 is 9. 9 minus 6 is 39. Negative. So if after writing the checks, she went to check her bank account, the bank account would say negative $39.50. That's how much she owes the bank. So the bank did her a favor by allowing those checks to actually go through, but it means that she's now down. So she needs to go to the bank ASAP to put some money in her account so that's not negative. Banks, trust me, don't like negative accounts. But for this bank, it says that they need you to have $75 in that bank account at all times. Otherwise, they charge you a fee, a penalty for not having that minimum balance. So what we do know make some room. What we do know is that her bank account needs to have $75. Okay, so there's two ways of thinking about this. Okay, so if you do the start, change, and final, think of it that way. We know that her final balance needs to be a positive 75. Where is she now? She's right here. That's how much she's starting with right now after using all those checks. So a change has to happen, right? In this case, we know it's going to be a positive change. It needs to go up. So think about being here, temperature-wise. You're at negative 35.5. Here's 0 somewhere. And you need to go all the way to 75. So how much of an ascension has to occur for you to reach 75? Well, so we need to find that change, right? It's going to be a positive change. Needs to go up. If you look at this number line, well, one of the ways you can do it is think of it in two parts. From negative 39.5 to 0, this distance right here is 39.5, yeah? So from here to here, you would go that 39.5. And what would be the distance from 0 to 75? It would be 75. So if you add those two distances, you get our change. So 75 plus 39.5 is 114.50. So that change has to be a positive 114.5. So remember, after writing all those checks, her balance went down to negative 39.5. Her bank says, hey, you need to come back as soon as possible and deposit some money to maintain or to keep your balance at $75, because that's what we require you to have at all times. And in order to do that, she needs to deposit this much money, 114.5. So one way was, if you want to use a number line, that's fine, just show it. And another way is, again, you can do that starts, change, final. And in this case, we were missing the change, right? So let me erase this for a second. So to find the change, it'd be what? 75 final minus start. So to find the change is the final, which is 75 minus, and what was the start? Negative 39.5. Change it to addition, plus, this is also going to change to positive. And if we add those two, hopefully I didn't do it wrong, you get 114.5. So that's the change. That's how much money she needs to bring tomorrow to deposit in the bank account. Now, another thing that's happening here is that the bank says, okay, besides that, so you need to bring $114.50 to bring your bank to your value, your balance up to 75. But because yesterday you used money that you did not have by writing all those 5 checks, we, the bank, covered you. And because we covered you, we're going to charge you a fee for us covering you. And that fee is $19.99. Banks do that, trust me. So she needs to bring this much cash to bring her account back up to $75, plus she's going to pay this fee. So the second part says, if the bank charges you a fee, or her a fee of $19.99, how much more money do you need to bring? Well, add those two values. This is what you need to bring it to 75, and this is what you need to bring to pay the bank for helping you yesterday. Add them up. 9, 4, carry the 1, 14, carry the 1. So you need to bring a total of $134.49. Okay. I'm not going to do that last question because it's not going to be part of the test. Well, you know what? I'm going to go do it. Because you didn't know, and I'll do it. So we're buying 1 1/3 pounds of ribeye steak and 1 1/3 pounds of sirloin. So let's do the ribeye. The ribeye is 11.55 times 1 3/4. We're going to change that to 1.75. This is my ribeye. If you buy 1.75 pounds at 11.55 per pound, that's how much you would pay. And the other one is a sirloin. The sirloin, how much is a sirloin per pound? $8.45. Must be on special. And multiply that by, you're buying again 1.75. I'm not going to multiply this. I'm going to ask Alexa. Alexa, What's 11.55 times 1.75?
11.55 multiplied by 1.75 rounds to 20.21.
Rounds 20.21, which is not helpful because I don't know if she rounded correctly. So I'm going to use a calculator, which you will have access to starting the next unit. And I'm not too big on that. 11.55 times 1.75 equals, and she rounded correctly. The sirloin, 8.45 times 1.75 equals 14.7875, but if you were to round this to 2 decimal places, because that's how much money goes to, we're going to round that to 14.79. So that's how much it would cost. We want to know how much more you would spend on ribeye, so it would be that minus this. Let's borrow. 10 becomes a 9, 12, 11, 11, 2, 4, 5. So you would spend $5.42 more. Half a pound of flank. So again, half a pound is flank steak. Let's see. Flank steak, you can write half, or you can write 0.5 times 2.5 pounds. No, half a pound of flank. How much is the flanks? So it's 0.5 times 7.45. You're gonna buy ground beef, and how much is the ground beef? Is $3.45. You're gonna multiply that by 2.5 pounds, which is 2.5 as a decimal. So if you bought half a pound of flank, it will cost you $3.73 rounded, because on the calculator, if you multiply, you would have gone 3.725. So that makes that right, because we're dealing with money. Your supermarket is not going to say $3 or 3.725. It'll tell you 3.73. The ground beef, the ground beef is $3.45 per pound, and you bought 2.5 pounds, so you multiply by 2.5, and again in the calculator you would get this, and you're going to round this to 8.63. So your total would be 3.73 for the flank, 8.63 for the ground, and if you add that, you get 6, 13, and 12. And if you paid with a $25 coupon or gift card or something like that, you would have to subtract, and let's see how much left over you would have on your coupon. Borrow 10, 9, 10, minus 6 is 4, 6, 2. So this is how much left, how much you would have left in your coupon. Okay? And that's that.